Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be restoring an old set of Dualmatic hubs. Dualmatic hubs are actually pretty cool. They've got this unique 2-lever design that locks your front axle in and out of 4-wheel drive. And it's something you don't really see in any other locking hub. Something else I didn't know is these actually came in like a 4-lever design, and you could get them on International and GM products. Now there's several variations of these hubs and there's little changes here and there, but the important thing to know is that there is a long and a short version. Now these that I have here are actually the short version. You can see they're about 2 inches from the bottom to the top there. These aren't as desirable, I would say, as the long ones, but they're still really cool and they'll work fine on my later model axle. I actually already have a set of lockout hubs on the Jeep. You might have seen them on Instagram. They're old Cutlass hubs, which actually operate pretty similar to how these do, except they're not lever operated. They actually take like a special tool to engage and disengage them. I like the fact that the lever on this is what engages and disengages these, and that I don't have to carry around a special tool. It's really surprising when you start tearing into these old hubs that there's really not a lot going on here. There's a handful of pieces, pretty simple design, but it's a strong design. There's not a lot to go wrong, and they've passed the test of time. Getting these levers and cylinders to come out of the tops should be easier than this, but after several years of abuse, nothing's going to be quite straight. Some things are going to be a little marred or a little bent. So I took a dead blow and a few light taps on aluminum block and they came right out. On the main body of the hub, you can see there's a gear that your axle passes through, and that's what those cylinders engage or disengage with depending on where the machine face is at. Now holding this gear in is a snap ring on the back, and it's easily removed, and then you can get that gear out. I say it's pretty easy. I made it look hard because I didn't want to go all the way to the shop to get the correct snap ring pliers. So I made do with what I had, and I did end up getting them off, but I took the long way around on this one. And once we got that snap ring off, you can see that it's really just down to the main body now. There is a bushing pressed in there, but otherwise, that's all the pieces that we're going to be taking out of this. Now I'm going to go through on the other hub and do the same steps. Now that we got the bases stripped down as far as we can go, they're ready for cleanup. I'm going back to the tops. Now the way these levers work, there's actually a little detent that holds them in place, keeps them from flying out when you're driving. So there's a set screw, then there'll be a spring, and then the little detent ball. The detent ball was a little hard to get out. It was kind of rusty and corroded. Found me a piece of wire, and after I fiddled with it for a minute, I finally got it to pop out. Again, I'm just going to repeat the same steps on the other top. You can really see that there's not a ton of pieces here. This isn't an overwhelming job. It'd be a good little fun restoration to kind of get your hands dirty, get used to taking stuff apart, cleaning it up, putting it back together. Now, Purple Power is my go-to degreaser. I think every part on a Jeep pretty much, I've used Purple Power to clean it up, to get the grease off. It works really good. And I'll actually even go back and put a little bit of hot water in there too, because it is a concentrate. You can dilute it a little bit, and that hot water really helps it to start breaking stuff down. Once I've let it soak, usually 12 to 24 hours for stuff like this, I'll go in there with a brush, in this case my old toothbrush, and start scrubbing that old grease and grime off. Now you'll see here on these cylinders that I took off, there's a little O-ring, and that serves to keep the grease in and any dirt or water or anything from getting into your hub. Now that these have soaked for a while, I'm going to go ahead and see about getting all these O-rings off. What's really cool about this is those little blue patches you can see there. That's the original Dualmatic blue paint. I think it's really cool that there's a little bit left on here, and even though it's about to go away, it's awesome to see that. Alright, so now that these things are about as clean as I'm going to get them, got all the dirt and the grease off, I think I'm about ready to pack these up and take them to the sandblaster. Coming back from sandblasting, I've got a box of fresh parts ready for paint, but unfortunately the sandblasting has revealed something I was hoping I wouldn't find. Now the bad news, unfortunately, is one of these bases is cracked. It's pretty common on these hubs. This cast aluminum is just not that strong. A lot of the times it's from the bolts actually loosening up because you got to use the correct locking tabs. I'll show you here in a little bit. It's kind of a bummer because I was really excited about getting these things painted and put back together. Now luckily, I made some calls and talked to some people and I hunted down another set of them. Now these actually are the other version, the tall version. And what I like about these is you can use the taller version on any year of Willys Jeep, whereas the short ones only work on later models with the shorter axle stubs. Went through all the same steps again, got these took apart, took them to the sandblaster, cleaned them up, and thankfully no cracks. Everything seems to be in really good shape on these. So I went ahead and took this the extra mile, pressed the roll pins out of all the levers because I wanted to get them cleaned up. And I actually had a really cool idea of color matching these to the wheels, something I saw on Instagram. So I took them to the same guy that powder coated my wheels for me, got them powder coated in UT orange, and then everything else I just painted a nice semi-gloss black. And now it's all cleaned up and ready to go back together. Now, you don't want to put anything back together dry, so any contact surfaces, I'm putting a nice thin coat of grease on it. Now, you would think final assembly you would want to pack these full of grease, but I did my homework, I looked it up. Dualmatic actually recommended that you just do what I'm doing here, light coats of grease on all the contact surfaces, and between that and the grease on your knuckle, it should be enough to keep these going. I'm going to start by putting these bases back together. Now I reached out to a guy on the CJ3B forum and got all the reproduction parts to put these back together. Now this is just a common snap ring. There's nothing special about it, but I went ahead and bought the whole kit from him so I knew everything was right and correct. And I went ahead and got me a good set of snap ring pliers where I ain't gonna fight getting these things to go back together. With the cylinders, same thing. I put a little bit of grease all around the top. Part of that's for assembly, but part of it is also to get these O-rings to slip on a little bit better. And again, you just don't want a dry seal. I was really excited when I found out somebody was making reproduction parts for these hubs. It's awesome that you can get all the correct pieces and parts to get these things back up to par. You can see here I've got the set screw, the ball, and the spring. Now I'm going to take that spring and dip it in a little bit of grease, and then I'm going to use that grease to pick that ball up. I think it's a good idea to have some grease in this whole assembly here because there's nothing really protecting it from the elements. Once I got that set screw in, I actually backed it back out because I thought it would probably be a good idea to add a little Loctite to that. I believe the only thing that really holds that in is just when you bottom it out on the threads inside of there. Now I'm ready to start putting the cylinders back in the lids. And like I said, these are powder coated UT orange to match the wheels. Same guy that powder coated my wheels for me. Now, unfortunately, it didn't either stick too good to this metal, or I'm not sure what really happened, but I did have some chipping, and of course it is a tight fit. Like I said, all this isn't perfect. It's been marred and bent and abused over the years, but all in all, they went together pretty good. Now he also sells the correct gaskets that fit these things perfectly. And then there's a little metal shim too, and I believe that is to help out if your lid's been crushed by over torquing those bolts. You can see those divots there. That raises the top up just enough to give them cylinders good clearance where it's easy to operate these levers. Now, originally, I believe you could get these hubs in two colors, black or blue. I went with black because I thought it'd match my wheels better. But what's awesome is he offers these high quality reproduction decals in either the black or the blue. And you can see there, that decal is just a cherry on the top. Really sets these things off and makes them look brand new. Now there is one more piece. I've talked about these a couple times already. These are the correct locking tabs you're going to need to properly torque these bolts down and make sure nothing backs out, but also keep from over torquing and warping and smushing and messing up your brand new hubs. Now that I got these things looking brand new, I can't wait to slap them on the Jeep to bolt them up and see what they look like. Y'all can see the colors on this just turned out awesome. The black on the orange and then the accented levers that match the wheels. I couldn't be happier with how all that turned out. Now you can see I got one side of that tab bent down, and then I'm going to torque these down to 25 foot-pounds, and then I'll bend that other tab over, and that is what's going to lock in these bolts and keep them from backing out. But at the same time, I won't have to worry about over torquing these tops and messing anything up. Again, I couldn't be happier with how these turned out. I think these look really cool on the Jeep, and they work just like brand new. You can see these levers function perfectly now. I really appreciate y'all checking out this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see y'all next time.